The hunter seeks its prey. Feet are swift and silent. The stars make only the faintest glimmer on the outline of this natural predator. Fast, agile, accurate. There is nowhere to hide, for this elf has hunted the impenetrable jungles of the Grahtwood since she first held a bow. From the shadows, volleys of arrows strike. Her victims are subjected to every pain imaginable. While not for their benefit, their death is quick. A combination of lethal poisons and the cold bite of frost, not to mention the master-crafted arrows sticking out of their eye. This is the Assassin build for Oblivion Remastered. Welcome to Fudge Muppet, my name is Scott, and this is the second of our many Oblivion builds to come, the Assassin. We are obsessed with the Elder Scrolls here, and all of our builds are optimized for great gameplay, but also we love role-playing, and so we create characters with their own motivations and backstory with specifically tailored skills, aesthetics, and gear to try and deliver you a truly unique experience, both memorable and distinct from others. There will be timestamps that break up this video into various sections, covering every single facet of the build, including a guide through leveling and gear, what items to get, tips and tricks, all for each respective part of the playthrough, early, mid, and late game, as well as a section dedicated to backstory and role-playing. This is the Assassin build. We did it. Can't have an Elder Scrolls game without a stealth archer. Run with the wind, hide in the shadows, and take the lives of your enemies before they can see it coming. In concept, I wanted to create the fantasy of being a master assassin with a comprehensive set of gear like poisons, enchantments, and enchanted arrows for special occasions, while also having blades as a functional backup. The assassin we've created is dedicated to the hunt, a true apex predator who no longer restrains herself to the beasts of Valenwood. She delights in the challenge, the hunt of fresh prey, but as she soon finds, nothing is as rewarding as hunting mortals, a challenge far greater than any beast which she can outsmart with ease. She isn't in it for the money, but for the love of the game, the cat and mouse killing. She's in love with the hunt. But without further ado, let's jump into the character creation and begin our journey as the assassin. The very first decision we make in the character creation process is race. Each race comes with its own set of starting attributes, and in the original Oblivion, male and female characters of the same race had a slightly different attribute distribution, but now we get more freedom in role-playing and greater control over our build's appearance without compromising on stats because the Origins have replaced this system, allowing us to pick from the old stat differences regardless of gender. So for the Assassin, I chose Bosma, a wood elf, specifically with the Grahtwood origin. The Grahtwood origin Bosma has 30 strength, 40 intelligence, 30 willpower, 50 agility, 50 speed, 40 endurance, 30 personality, and 50 luck. Oblivion Remastered is similar to the base game in the way it treats attributes, but it's made a few changes here and there. Strength essentially increases your melee damage, excluding daggers and short swords. This is a handy change for this kind of character. It also increases your carry weight, and it contributes to your total base health, though not as much as endurance. Intelligence determines the size of your magical pool, willpower determines how long it takes your magicka to recharge, and it majorly affects your maximum fatigue this time around, which makes it far more important for fatigue-intensive builds. Agility is primarily responsible for bow damage, but as per changes in Remastered, it also increases your dagger and shortsword damage, which is great for the assassin because it allows us to keep all of our damage stats in-house, so to say. It also contributes to your maximum fatigue and determines how quickly it regenerates. Speed is literally just how fast you move. Endurance provides the larger portion of your base health pool, but most importantly, your endurance affects how much health you gain on level up, the formula being 10% of your current endurance rounded down. It used to be the case that you always wanted to get endurance early on because these health gains weren't retroactive, but now endurance health gains are retroactive. This is great news for builds like this, where we can make endurance a low priority out the gate, without feeling like we lost out big time by the late game. Personality determines a NPC's initial disposition, and luck is, well, very niche. It provides hidden bonuses across all skills, and helps gambling outcomes at the arena. It has some interesting interactions, but overall, for 95% of builds, it's just not needed. For our assassin, the Bosma with Grahtwood origin is ideal for the following reasons. Firstly, starting with 50 agility and 50 speed. This is something that only both origins of the Bosma and the Arnesian Argonians start out with. By the latter part of the mid-game, and definitely by the late game, most builds will have maxed their 3 most important stats and made significant progress in the rest. However, there will be many hours of gameplay in those earlier levels, the levels 1 to 10 and even 11 to 15. So we here at Fudge Muppet want to prioritize the actual actual played experience of an assassin, not just give some itemized endgame build that doesn't feel like the actual character you're going to get until the end of the game. So these attribute head starts are very important for your played experience. The primary difference between the Gratwood and Reaper's March Bosma is 10 attribute points that are added to either endurance or personality. The Gratwood, for reasons aside from role-playing, was the no-brainer choice, because having that extra endurance, that is, having more health, is always good. And as for personality, well, we are an assassin. Come on, we kill people for a living, we don't need people to like us. The Bosma has no amazing abilities like some of the other races. They do have 75% resistance to disease, which is nice, and the Beast Tongue Lesser Power, which can be used once a day, which allows us to command a creature on target, but only a creature up to level 5, so this doesn't have a lot of longevity. Like I mentioned, it's the initial stat spread and the role-playing that are going to make the Bosma such a great pick. This also extends to their skill bonuses, which give a +10 to Sneak, Alchemy, and Marksman, as well as a +5 to Light Armor and Acrobatics, all of which we will be utilizing, so the Bosma is a great pick for this build. I have based all the flavor, backstory, and role-playing around a Bosma character. However, if you want to choose a different race, here are the other options I would pick. The Arnesian Origin Argonian will give us a very similar stat spread as the Gratwood Bosma, but instead of 30 strength and 40 endurance, we will get 40 strength and 30 endurance, which is an acceptable trade-off. Argonians also have the 75% resistance to disease, as well as a full immunity to poison and water breathing. The starting skills are a little worse for our purposes, but look, that can be accounted for. If you want to be an Argonian, you can go for it, but again, keep in mind the role-playing will have to be adjusted drastically. We will be doing builds for all the different races eventually, so up to you. A Dark Elf also starts out with 50 speed and 40 agility, and the Khajiti with 50 agility and 40 speed, so these are also solid candidates, and each have their own perks. The Dark Elf has 75% fire resistance, which especially in Oblivion is a commonly encountered damage type, so it can be useful. However, as an assassin, the idea is to not get hit. And the Khajiti has a natural night eye ability, which is fun for an assassin, but personally, I never found this game to be that dark that I couldn't see myself. Not like when I was 11 playing OG Oblivion Saturday morning with morning sun glare on an early 2000s box TV. The Khajiti also has great starting sneak boosts, but let's not stay dilly-dallying on race possibilities. For this build in particular, I chose Bosma with the Gratwood origin for both statistical and role-playing reasons. They are Tamriel's best stealth archers. As you move through the sewers and again come across the Blades and the Emperor, the most esteemed Uriel Septim VII will give you an astrology reading. Time to pick a birth sign. After we chose the Atronach sign for the Sorcerer build, there were many comments panicking that we were going to follow our classic Skyrim build's trend of being obsessed with the Atronach stone. I'm very happy to inform you that this isn't the case. The Atronach sign is a great choice for a lot of builds, perhaps even those that don't use magic, even just for the spell absorption. However, because of attributes and the various signs that add bonuses to these, Atronach is a harder sell, especially for a stealth archer that isn't supposed to be in the line of fire, so you can have a big sigh of relief knowing that most of our builds won't be using the Atronach sign. For the assassin, there are a few solid candidates. I personally chose the Steed sign, which gives us a whopping 20-point bonus to our speed stat, which lets it start out at a value of 70, which is pretty peak out the gate. Personally, I value speed quite a lot for stealth builds, as it contributes to your movement speed across the board, including while sneaking, and so it, especially in the early game, can make a difference between getting caught or not. Also, as an archer more generally, when stealth fails, it's going to help significantly when trying to keep out of melee range and continuing to use archery effectively. I wanted to feel like Legolas in the Lord of the Rings movies, always using a bow, typically too quick and lethal to be caught in close quarters. Speed 70 makes a big difference, so the Steed Stone was the pick for me. Alternatively, you could opt for the Thief Stone, which confers 10 points to agility, speed, and luck. Luck is useless for our purposes, and we will not be increasing it, but as for the 10 boost to agility and speed, this is great, a totally valid choice. You would end up with 60 speed and 60 agility starting out. It's really up to you, but you're essentially choosing how you want to split your head start. Picking Thief would adjust how I do the early leveling a little also, but look, the Thief is only starting 10 points behind on speed and it's further ahead on agility. I personally found that speed makes a big difference to how well stealth goes down, and I'd rather have it out the gate in this case, plus I want to outrun any enemies to get space between them and me so I can continue fighting with a bow. There are other signs you could pick, maybe for some niche role-playing fun, but from an optimized perspective, I think that Steed or Thief are the best picks for this playstyle. Someone might say, what about Atronach for for 50% spell absorption, or Lord for armor rating and magic resistance. Look, you could, but you're missing out on the strengths of the playstyle, and if you're in the firing line of magic or melee that often, then you probably need to reconsider your stealth approach. So that covers race and birth signs so far. Let's keep moving through the sewers and get to the pivotal point. Is it weird to call this kill epic? Oblivion Remastered really did this scene justice. Anyways, the Emperor is dead, time to pick a class. Oblivion Remastered has overhauled the leveling system a lot. It is nowhere near as contrived and punishing as it once was. Attribute gains at level up are now simply distributed by you, rather than the value added being determined by skill increases under governed attributes. At level up, you will be presented with 12 virtue points, which are essentially attribute points that you can distribute as you like, but a single stat can only have a maximum of +5, meaning the rest must be distributed elsewhere. Also, a point of luck costs 4 virtue points rather than 1, and you can only add a single point per level. I dumped all of that on you now in order to provide context for our class choices. Major skills are skills that level up faster and start higher. Minor skills level slower, but they also contribute to overall level experience, unlike old Oblivion. Funnily enough, the old pre-made Oblivion classes were typically all suboptimal because of the way leveling worked. Now, to be honest, a lot of them are perfectly fine to use because you can distribute attribute points freely. However, most of the time I'd recommend tailoring a custom class to your specific needs. Speaking of which, let's build our Assassin class. We won't be using the default Assassin class, rather opting for our own tailored build. I just called it the Assassin as well, but you could, if you wanted to, name it something a bit more flavor specific, like Hunter or something. Firstly, we will pick Stealth as our specialization, which is a bit of a no-brainer choice. It will provide a +5 skill boost to all of the stealth-based skills, including Marksman, and it will allow these skills to level at a faster rate. We also pick 2 favored attributes, which is essentially just picking 2 stats to give a +5 bonus to. Thanks to the Steed sign, we already have a bonus of 20 to our speed, so we can actually do without the extra 5 for now, and instead focus on some of the other attributes. Naturally, I pick Agility as one. Agility contributes to our overall fatigue, but less than willpower. It also determines our fatigue regen, and more importantly, it augments our bow damage and short sword and dagger damage. These are all the tools of the Assassin. Like I mentioned before, this change to Remastered is great because melee assassins become way easier to get started because we don't need to factor in strength for damage with short swords and daggers. The second choice might surprise you, but we will be picking Willpower, bringing it to a level of 35. We already have a good speed from the outset, and so we want to focus on bringing our other important stats up to par. We aren't a magic character, so we aren't really going to be benefiting from the magicka regeneration. However, Willpower is the main determinant of your maximum fatigue. This is very important for warriors, especially in melee, but the other big factor is sprinting and jumping. Having a large fatigue capacity for the Assassin is very important, not only for basic ground covering exploration, but primarily it is for escape through both dodging and sprinting, as well as jumping to out of reach locations, making your targets struggle to follow you. Meanwhile, you can just potshot them. Hence, in totality, I think having a high willpower and high agility will be invaluable, as it will give you the highest fatigue possible with the highest regeneration possible thanks to agility, which also helps max out your damage with bows, daggers, and short swords. Agility, willpower, and speed are going to be our most important stats, followed by strength and endurance, but we can get to that later. Intelligence, personality, and luck just aren't important for us, so regarding starting attributes, they will be 30 strength, 40 intelligence, 35 willpower, 55 agility, 70 speed, 40 endurance, 30 personality, and 50 luck. I will give you more details on how to progress in the early game leveling section, but for now let's talk about major skills. Firstly, we've got Marksman, which is our primary damage skill. It will be starting off with a whopping skill level of 40 or more if increased in the sewers, which means we are only at most 10 skill levels from a journeyman rank. The same is the case for Sneak, which will be starting out at again 40 with only 10 points from journeyman rank. Because we start out as Beyond Apprentice, our sneak attacks with bows will do 3 times damage, and our sneak attacks with daggers will do 8 times damage. I've got some specifics to talk about with Sneak in the leveling section, but that later. These are our 2 highest skills out the gate and are central to the Stealth Archer playstyle. As I've mentioned, maneuverability and speed are also very important to a Stealth Archer who is either trying to sneak through areas successfully or keep distance between them and their opponent in combat. For this reason, I picked Athletics as a major skill, which will get us to the skill level of 25, which is Apprentice out the gate, which allows our fatigue to regenerate at a normal rate when running. And down the track, this will essentially make our sprinting consume a lot less fatigue, allowing us to outpace everyone. Hell, Hell, I could, thanks to sprinting, catch up to Maik if I wanted to. Acrobatics is the other skill which starts out at 35, and since we are beyond apprentice rank, we will have this dodge move, which you can do by pressing the jump button while blocking. As you can see in these early arena fights, it can be really useful with our high speed character, allowing us to get that extra distance when strafing or backpedaling. It also just looks cool. High acrobatics also allows us to get into better positions for sneak attacks and also jump and stay out of range of dangerous melee attackers who have discovered us. Also on theme for a hunter-assassin type character, it increases our ability to get wherever we want. The traversal skills of this build are fantastic. You won't be needing a horse. Light armor is our choice of wear, and hence we get the light armor major skill, bringing our skill level to 35 at the beginning. For the most part, this is straightforward. Higher skill gives greater protection and makes it degrade slower. However, most appealing for this build is the benefits of expert rank at skill level 75, because this makes it so light armor no longer encumbers you, meaning you will be moving like you are only wearing clothes. However, in my experience, I didn't really get hit that much, so my level 26 build hadn't even made it to expert. Trainers can fix that though. Early game we have a set with low encumbrance anyways, but we'll get to that. Speaking of things related to armor, we are going to get perhaps a more unconventional choice for an assassin, and that is the Armorer major skill that will come out as a skill level of 25 at the start. There are a few reasons for this. From a role-playing angle, I really liked the idea of an assassin who maintains their equipment, always stitching their boots or sharpening their dagger. From a practical perspective, we do actually want our weapons and armor to be tip-top for damage purposes, and also starting out with this skill at an apprentice level, we can repair enchanted armor and weapons ourselves, which is vital since they will always be part of our repertoire. The final of our major skills to discuss is alchemy. For an assassin, a well-made poison can be invaluable, plus with the hunter-esque role-playing, it makes a ton of sense. I'll address more of the specifics in the next section, but starting out, our alchemy will have a skill level of 35. We will also naturally leverage potions from time to time, for health restoration of course, but also for things like Fortify Speed or Chameleon. Now, minor skills are typically anything that isn't a major skill, but for build video purposes, I want to outline our minor skills, meaning things that we didn't pick as a major skill, but still would probably use to some extent. You may have noticed that we didn't pick security as a major skill, and don't worry, I thought about it, and I think picking it as a major skill is a waste for the following reasons. For starters, it will go up faster than usual because of our stealth specialization, so it's not like we have no leveling advantage for it, but also, there is a very useful thing that we can get at level 10, the Daedric artifact of Nocturnal, an item called the Skeleton Key. It is in function an unbreakable lockpick, which makes the security skill a useless focus because once you grab it, you can just go to any lock and spam auto attempt until you get it, which both raises the skill dramatically and lets you get into what you want. So I figured for the most part, we can just deal with any lockpicking difficulty early on, your skill will still level fast enough, and lockpicks are relatively abundant anyways. The second minor skill I'd like to single out is the Blade skill. This character is an archer first and foremost. However, we will at times use a dagger in a tight spot if we've been closed in a cave or something, or if we're in a situation where we are really close and can get a dagger kill, because remember the sneak attack multipliers on a dagger are ×8 versus the bow's ×3. Also, it's for the rare cases that we weren't on top of our supplies and ran out of arrows. I just thought I should mention it. For now though, it's time to leave the Imperial City sewers and begin your journey as the assassin. Okay, so you're out of the sewers, where to go, what to do. Vilverin is the first Ayleid ruin that you see, and it's a great starting spot to loot and test out your new build, but unlike our previous build, the Sorcerer, we won't capital N need to go to Vilverin in order to snatch up all the Welkin stones. You can still do so and then just sell them all, or rather opt not to pilfer everything from Vilverin and instead hop off in your own direction. One of the very first things I actually did was go to the Imperial City and begin entering as a combatant in the arena. Now, this may seem unconventional for an assassin, but as it will be revealed in the backstory and role-playing, this character joins the arena to first start trying making money from killing, which is her favorite thing to do. It calms her. From a gameplay perspective, this actually provides a pretty good training place to get used to the skills of playing an archer in combat, as well as the maneuverability practice, plus you'll earn yourself some gold, and it's a way to get that marksman skill up, as well as some light armor skill. You will also get a nice solid starting set of armor called the Arena Light Raiment, which also has +5 to athletics and +2 to personality. Not very stealth archer of me, I know, but you can actually just plant yourself sneaking at the outset of every battle, crosshair over the center of the enemy gate, and then when the match begins, it opens and they always move to the middle, and you can fire off and get one sneak attack before the battle begins. The rest is all ranged combat, but hey, that 70 speed with athletics and acrobatics as major skills is looking like a good idea. Your mileage may vary depending on your difficulty, but at adept difficulty, I was able to do the entire arena questline, meaning all the battles plus the Grey Princess side mission before level 5, and this was without the enchanted bow we get early in the game. In retrospect, I should have got that. Joining the arena may not be how you want to play it, but you can also do half of this and half of that and just dabble in the arena, but this is the way I did it for role-playing reasons. Anyways, besides increasing your marksman skill and racking up some basic combat experience and plenty of gold, I did it for one of the most satisfying murders possible, and no, the Grey Prince murder thing seems to be fixed. Don't worry about that though. Instead, I found someone so infuriating that for the first time the assassin considers the delights of cold-blooded murder. My killing of the adoring fan has been observed by forces unknown. This is an easy murder to do, with a role-playing reason, in order to initiate the process of joining the Dark Brotherhood. If you don't want to join the arena and do all that rigmarole and instead get straight into the stealth experience, well, you're just going to have to find someone, a citizen of the cities or settlements, and straight up murder them for whatever reason. You will get the message that your killing has been observed by forces unknown, and then when you next sleep, you will be greeted with a surprise, one that will guide you onto the path of a Dark Brotherhood assassin. From a role-playing perspective, one that doesn't go ahead and do the arena questline, there is an easy spot for some delicious murder, one that may appeal to our character and also satisfy the requirements for joining the Dark Brotherhood. Travel to Jaden Hall, the Eastern Gate, and you'll basically want to start traveling north with a slight tinge towards northeast. Right here at the Walker camp, there are two non-hostile Commoner Tong thugs, and if you kill them, it counts as murder, but there are no guards to worry about and such. Plus, from a role-playing point of view, the Commoner Tong are a racist criminal gang from Morrowind, a solid choice for baby's first murder. You can also go to the Skooma Den in Breville and take out one of the Khajiti for an easy murder to get away with. Again, it's not what I did. I went to the arena first and made the adoring fan the canon first murder of my character. Someone so annoying that she was pushed to extreme methods only to realize how much she liked the act. Either arena first or this Commoner Tong method or someone else, a murder has been committed. It's time to follow through on Lucien Lechance's quest. We have officially joined the Dark Brotherhood and are given a set of Dark Brotherhood gear, the Shrouded Armor and Hood. As the assassin, this will be our fit for quite some time. The armor offers very good protection, especially considering that it weighs little, the hood and the armor with less than 3 points of encumbrance, leaving us with more room for ingredients, poisons, potions, arrows, and weapons in the early game while our strength is low. Its enchantments are also great for us at this stage, the armor offering 8 points of fortify skill to sneak, illusion, marksman, blade, and acrobatics. The hood offers 2 points of the same things, so when combined we have 10-point bonuses. I don't want to spoil too much about the Dark Brotherhood in general, because it's one of Oblivion's best questlines for those who haven't played it before, but I would also encourage you to take it slow and savor it. I've spoken of early game armor, and as for the weapon, you really just want to go for whatever bow does the most damage for the most part. Though, I do have one early game recommendation to speak about. But wait a moment, I haven't spoken about leveling yet. Of course, when or where you level up will vary depending on if you went the arena route first, where I gained about 3 to 4 levels, or if you prioritized the Dark Brotherhood straight away. No matter what you did, the way we raise our attributes will be the same. As you can see, speed is plenty high enough for the time being, so it will be that we slowly raise speed with +2 each level, as we then raise agility and willpower as our focused stats with +5 at each level. So, at level 2, you would have 40 willpower, 60 agility, and 72 speed. Invest 5 in willpower and 5 in agility each level, with the remainder 2 virtue points in speed. If you followed this simple approach, by level 10, you would have 80 willpower, 100 agility, and 88 speed. I'll explain where we go from there in the mid-game section, but for now, let's get to talk about that early game bow. From level 1, we can get a really good bow called the Frostwyrm Bow. It's on par with an elven bow, actually it's a little better, but it's still worse than a glass bow. But it also has a really nice enchantment of 15 points of frost damage. This enchanted bow will make all the difference early on in the game, plus having a bow with an enchantment makes it easy to deal with ghosts and other magical creatures that can't be affected by things other than magic, silver, or Daedric. You can also get silver arrows though. Anyways, I'd highly recommend going after the Frostwyrm Bow in the first 5 levels, but here is how to actually get it. Remember Walker Camp, north of Cheydinhal, where I suggested those Kemonotong thugs can be killed to get an easy murder? Well, we actually want to head further north than that, up the mountain to Dive Rock. That acrobatics is really nice to have, eh? At Dive Rock, we will find out that there were 2 of the warriors of Thirsk from Solstheim that had tracked down the Udafricht matron. Well, we are going to have to track down and finish what they could not. If you follow the mountains to the left, we will find the Beast, a great troll with chameleon and frost resistance. We gotta kill it to get the bow from its belly. Poisons are going to be really, really handy here to help counter its health regen, and in general to help just bring down this solid beast. It's not leveled to the player, and it is quite tough. If it gets to you, it will wipe you out pretty quick, so you can buy scrolls of summonable creatures like zombies to be a bit of a meat shield for you if you want, but you can also just use strategic movement to stay alive while you potshot it to low health with a ton of poisons. Once you kill the beast, claim the Frostwyrm Bow from its corpse. Now it's yours and will be the ideal bow until much later in the game when we can make ourselves a better one. Also, while speaking of weapons, the special bonus reward for the second Dark Brotherhood contract is an enchanted elven dagger called Sufferthorn. It has the appearance of an elven dagger and it's got quite a powerful enchantment, though it is scaled for your level. I'd highly recommend waiting until level 5 because that version of the enchantment damages health by 10 points and drains strength by 5 points. This nifty little dagger is great for us if we ever run out of arrows, our bow breaks, or if we get close enough to take advantage of the 8 times dagger sneak attack multiplier, plus we can also apply our poisons to it. Overall, daggers will have greater use in the early game, but as we play this build correctly, we will have so many arrows and be far more effective with archery that the blade skill will stay far behind and get outpaced unless you specifically trained it for the long term. We have a really cool Nightblade build planned for the future, so if you want a more magical assassin with a dagger experience, maybe hold out for that one. This assassin is the stealth archer experience. Also consider that the bow we just got from the Udafricht matron is very powerful for our early level and makes daggers even less appealing for our build by comparison. Speaking of the Udafricht, let's talk the poisons we used to kill this beast in the first place. Alchemy is one facet of this playstyle that requires a little bit of knowledge and attention, but the payoff is so worth it. The main guide to having a good time with alchemy, in my opinion, is to figure out what commonly available ingredients can be made into potions and poisons that you want, which can then form the mainstay of your alchemical production. The most basic, straightforward thing that we will rely on is a damage health poison, the poisoniest of poisons. Straight out of the gate, with only a novice mortar and pestle at level 1, alchemy skill level 35, we will be able to make a damage health poison that does 2 damage for 10 seconds, which quick math is 20 total damage done over a period of 10 seconds. At Journeyman Alchemy, you will be getting numbers more like 3 damage for 12 seconds, meaning 36 damage total over the period. These numbers may seem small at first, but trust me, they go a long way, and with the abundance of ingredients to make these simple poisons, we will be able to have heaps of them. And this is vitally important because if you didn't know, these poisons stack, which means if you apply 3 poisons, 1 to each arrow shot, one after the other, even at novice, you will have a damage of 20 over 10 seconds stacked 3 times. So in 3 shots, you've dealt 60 poison damage over the 10 seconds. Watch me at level 5 with 40 alchemy skill and a whole lot of poisons just nuke the Udafricht matron and get myself that bow. So damage health poisons are super effective, but bear in mind that certain races and creatures have poison resistances or immunities. Redguard characters have a 75% resistance to poison, Argonians have an immunity, as do several undead like ghosts or zombies. Just be aware of that. Alchemy will be the transformable part of your assassin playthrough. It will take your damage sky high and also provide other benefits through potions like healing or chameleon and niche use poisons like silence or paralyze. But at the end of the day, the damage health poison is going to be your reliable staple. Here is the guide on how to make them. The best 3 ingredients that you want to keep in mind are nightshade, peony seeds, and dragon's tongue. Nightshade is the most plentiful, found all throughout the West Weald, stretching from Kvatch to Breville, all through the border with Valenwood. an ideal harvesting track. Inside of this same region, there are peonies found primarily between Kvatch and Skingrad, and then in the region between Skingrad and Breville, you can also use Dragon's Tongue plants. I'd usually start at either Breville or Kvatch and just walk to the other place, taking note to pick up Nightshade, peonies, and Dragon Tongue along the way. These are the simplest to find in my experience. Other things work as well. Wisp stalk caps can be found in pretty much every cave you go into. They are plentiful. There are also stinkhorn caps in the Blackwood region, St. John's wort in the Great Forest region near Coral, and the Harada root and spittle sticks in Oblivion. Everything I've listed so far are ingredients that are pretty reasonably accessible and can be used to make damage health poisons from an apprentice level, which we start at. As you progress in the alchemy skill, you will be able to make damage health poisons from many more things, but nothing's gonna beat the Westweald area for its Nightshade in my opinion. When we do get to master level alchemy, we will be able to make single ingredient potions and poisons, meaning that all we'll need to do is pick up some Nightshade, which is plentiful, and make our poisons, but that's a later thing. Speaking of leveling skills and such, I have some notes on the others. Acrobatics and athletics are going to passively level for the most part as you travel and jump around the place. Light armor will level as you get hit, though to be honest, if this is lagging, don't worry a whole lot because it means you're doing a good job as a stealth archer and not getting hit. Skill trainers are a good idea for this to compensate. Ardaji, a Khajiti woman in Leyawen, or Luciana Galena in Breville are two trainers that can help. The armorer skill will just go up passively through use, repairing our equipment. Marksman and sneak are straightforward, but arguably sneak is something I would consider boosting. By that I mean practicing things like pickpocketing or just sneaking around people a ton more, even just to get it to journeyman quick so we can make less noise when moving. In a general sense, getting sneak to 100 as soon as possible will make the Dark Brotherhood contracts far more enjoyable, and from a build effectiveness point of view, the master benefit of sneak is that sneak attacks ignore the enemy's armor, meaning that the first shot is going to be so much more powerful. I'm not saying go ahead and exploit max, but I'd encourage you to sneak around in cities and busy places to try and boost it occasionally, but don't make it boring for yourself. For the most part, outside of getting it to journeyman fast, I just leveled through pure gameplay. With that said, we've rounded out the early game section of this video, which covers levels 1 to 10. Our level 10 assassin build, if you have allocated virtue points as instructed, will be 30 strength, 40 intelligence, 80 willpower, 100 agility, 88 speed, 40 endurance, 30 personality, and 50 luck. As I mentioned at the start of the video, we here at Fudge Muppet love role-playing, creating backstories and motivations for a character, as well as aesthetic decisions that create a certain gaming experience that is distinct from others. We seek a perfect blend of form and function, meaning cool builds that also play well. We aren't always going to go for builds that are just about min-maxing and being overpowered, though if we can, we will always try and make them as powerful as possible while maintaining role-playing integrity, but I digress. I thought that now you understand the foundational parts of the character creation and the early game leveling, as well as the fundamentals of the build, I figured now would be a good time to talk role-playing, factions, and backstory, something you can listen to while you get your character through those initial levels. So without further ado, let's get into the backstory, and then after we will see how this informs the role-playing and quest choices before rolling onto the mid and late game leveling. The assassin was not always so. There was a time she did not crave the blood of man or elf, a time when she was not an indiscriminate killer whose only joy in life was taking greater and greater trophies. Once she lived in the vast jungled Gratwood region of the Bosma homeland. She was born 35 years ago in the village of Vinedusk in the Malabor Tor region to the north. Englith was her given name, yet at only 2 years old she was orphaned. Both of her parents were killed during the brutality of the 5-year war that took place on the borders of Elsewhere, a violent conflict between the Bosma and the Khajiti during the Imperial Simulacrum. Her uncle, from further south in a remote village of Gratwood, took her in and raised her as his own. Englith was reared among her cousins, aunts, and uncles who led a different life than that of her parents, which was a far more modern way of life. Along with her cousins, Englith was raised in a way her father would have abhorred. They were Green Pact zealots, adhering strictly to the terms of the Meat Mandate. You see, the Green Pact is what binds all Bosma, vows to live in harmony with nature, a compact with the god that gave them their stable forms, Ifri. In its restricted application, the Bosma are committed to harming no plant life of Valenwood, leaving them to live as de facto carnivores, Perhaps with honey and already fallen fruit as the exceptions, they are bound to consume all that they kill and leave no waste, which even includes the unthinkable. This pact extends to all life, including enemies felled in battle. It is said that the Bosmer of this commitment often fast before battle to make sure that they have a hunger for their kill. The food must be eaten within 3 days of death or risk breaking the Green Pact. Family members may help with the consumption of the meal. Anglith had done this several times by the time she was 30. Her aunt killed a Khajiti bandit once, a necessary kill of defense that made a meal for her and her cousins. While this may seem terrifying to outsiders, it is in fact partly what has kept the Wood Elves so peaceful with their neighbours, at least in the ancient days. You see, by the Third Era, centuries of great conflict during the Interregnum, including the Three Banners War and the later Tiber conquests, had led a lot of mainstream Valenwood society to ease their commitment to the Green Pact and approach it with a wide scope of interpretation. By even the Mid-Second Era, the idea of having to eat fallen enemies had fallen out of favour, and only the most remote villages continued such practices, such as the village in which Anglith was raised. The forests of Valenwood made Anglith an expert hunter, a great sneak, and an excellent shot, and she knew of all the glands and eyes, and which venoms do not affect the quality of the meat. As she grew to her 30th year, which is quite young for an elf, Anglith left the region in which she was reared for the first time. A special hunt with the uncle that raised her. They went north into the region of Malabar Tor and hunted the timber mammoths of those eastern forests. It was here that Anglith encountered for the first time towns and villages with stalls of creations from all over Tamriel, crafts of wood and clothing, not of leather or bone, fascinating jewels and strange trinkets. The hunting trip was eye-opening. For the first time she realized how small her world was. She questioned her uncle often after this time, became fixated on the world outside her home. For 3 years, arguments ensued, and her aunt would tell her uncle that she's just like her father, and that she'll abandon the pact just like he did, and that not are all cut out for the true honouring of Ifri. She was right. Anglith, once seeing possibility of the beyond, new lands to see, new prey to hunt, she could no longer subdue her wanderlust, no matter how hard she tried. For 3 years she struggled, before finally, without word, in the dead of night, she fled far to the north, to the borders of Valenwood, far beyond the green of her home. As she travelled through the borderlands into the west weald of Cyrodiil, she felt exposed, terribly uncomfortable, surrounded by hardly any foliage by comparison. But as strange as it was exhilarating. She still, in some sense, felt bound to abide by the Green Pact, but its terms were not to harm the plant life of Valenwood. It was strange when she picked her first flower of nightshade, almost like she'd just murdered something. But then, she felt nothing. She thought she may feel some sense of guilt or shame. In her village, if she accidentally tread on a flower, she would feel dreadful. Here, the flora just felt strange. Not lifeless, but not as vital as that of her home. Anglith quickly adjusted to this lifestyle and ventured north to the Imperial City, the strangest place she had ever seen, an island of stone spires like the great trees of her home. She ventured its streets. So much noise, so many people. It was overwhelming. Anglith darted into the alleys to gather her wits and breathe through the fear. And it was then that she was spied as a foreigner. 3 thugs approached her to steal, or something worse, yet they were not expecting such a defense from the little lost rabbit. A hunting knife to a thigh, an arrow through the eye, 2 felled and another who ran to cry. There she was in an alley, unharmed, with 2 kills wetting the ground. Weirdly, she felt calm. The adrenaline was almost soothing. It removed the buzz of the world and brought her to the present. It felt as if she could take the first deep breath of the past week. She looked at the bodies and her stomach rumbled. She was hungry after all, but the size of the meal was daunting. Alas, she had not yet abandoned the pact, and so her teeth tore into the raw flesh of the man's thigh. If only you could have seen the face of the guard that was alerted to this horror. Anglith was arrested and thrown in the Imperial prison on charges of murder and cannibalism. Funnily enough, most people seem to express most distaste at the cannibalism. She was in a holding cell for a day, given a quick trial, and then 2 days later she was thrown in the cell, awaiting execution, a point in which you will take the reins of the assassin. At first she panicked, as 3 days had passed without consuming her kill, But then that anxiety disappeared. Was it all lies? Was it always some overzealous ritual? Or maybe Ifri can only punish her if she's in Valenwood. Whatever it was, it turned out that she was safe and free in a sense, free from the pact, yet stuck behind bars. That is, until fate had a different idea. After gaining her freedom by pure chance, Anglith will re-enter the city a new woman, Karma. She's free from the pact, but she cannot help the anxious buzz. Simultaneously, she wants to hunt, but also explore this new world. This is where the role-playing of the arena comes into play. Anglith will discover that in fact there is a place where you can legally fight others to the death, and earn some gold too. That curious gold which can be used to buy things, the wondrous things that she had once never dreamed of. This is where you would go ahead and complete the arena questline. The crowd adores you. You work your way up to the rank of Grand Champion, the Black Arrow. An adoring fan accompanies you for a time, ceaseless chattering, a sickening sycophant. His chatter makes you feel as if the city exists in your mind wherever you go. Ugh! It has to stop! Well, you've committed a murder, and it's been observed by forces unknown. We of course know this is the Dark Brotherhood. I gave caveats in the early game section for alternate reasons, but for my personal playthrough and the role-playing involved, I joined the Dark Brotherhood after the arena. I like the idea of a progression from being paid to kill in the arena to then being paid to kill all over the place with progressively more challenging and illegal kills. Hunting, or rather killing, seems to be a core impulse, something that quietens the buzz, the anxiety. Anglith grows to crave the present moment and anything that brings it to her, and for her, nothing compares to the focus of a hunt or a kill. In a broader role-playing sense, Anglith truly becomes the assassin when she joins the Dark Brotherhood and decides to make a career of murder, that is, hunting people. The Dark Brotherhood is the main faction for this character, but in more general terms, quests that involve hunting of any kind, creatures or people, are quests that will intrigue her, such as the hunting of the Udafricht matron for our Frostwyrm Bow, or even in the main quest, this can apply to the hunting of dangerous Daedra of Oblivion, or the necromancers that Meridia sends you to kill, or the unicorn that you hunt for Hircine, or even the gatekeeper of the Shivering Isles. To be honest, even the Fighters Guild fits the bill. Anything that provides payment for violence. Think of quests like Bear Season, Go Fish, Revenge Served Cold, or Order of the Virtuous Blood. Anything where you are sent to kill stuff is a priority. Through the course of the Dark Brotherhood questline, you will be given the option to become a vampire if you so choose, and this is something that could fit well with a sort of emphasis on the bloodlust element of this character. However, from a more practical perspective, I really decided against this after trying it out for a few hours. I just found the type of character that this is doesn't work as nicely. The assassin is far more of a hunter and a stalker of the wilderness who loves her beautiful sunny days and collecting flowers. I just feel as if I would make a different vampire build in order to take advantage of their unique properties, but the option is there. Thieves Guild skill set wise makes a good fit, however from a role-playing perspective it's less of a priority. However, I did leave in that bit of a quirk where Anglith is very interested in things in general, the materials and crafts that she never witnessed or had during her upbringing, so in that sense she could join the Thieves Guild through the role-playing lens of wanting more things. I don't think the Knights of the Nine questline really fits flavor-wise, and I'd say the same for the Mages Guild since this character doesn't use any magic, but who knows, maybe in the super late game you've kept increasing intelligence and maybe you want to pick up magic later down the line, but it is in no way at the core of this build. Also, just to clarify as a broader note about the role-playing, Anglith has entirely abandoned the Green Pact by this point, after realizing that she can kill without reprisal no matter if she consumes it or not. And now she just allows herself to play the game of the hunt, no matter the quarry. True trophy hunting energy. Also, she harvests freely from the flora of Cyrodiil. The Green Pact stuff is more so to give context for who she is now, rather than be part of the actual playstyle. Alright, so now you have a really good grasp of the character on both a gameplay level and on a role-playing level. It's now time to get into the mid-game leveling. This is where we are going to see the full expression of our build take place. We left off the early game section where we have ourselves set up with the Dark Brotherhood Shrouded Armor fit, we have the Frostwyrm Bow, the Dagger Sufferthorn, and a whole bunch of poisons. Remember, Nightshade, Peonies, Dragon Tongue, Wisp-Stalk Caps, Stinkhorn, St. John's Wort, Spittlesticks, and Harada. The easiest to get are the first three. Always be on the lookout for better versions of alchemy equipment. There is the Apprentice, Journeyman, Expert, and Master versions. The Mortar and Pestle is the crucial piece, but the Calcinator and Alembic are more important for our purposes of poison crafting. However, if you happen upon it while out and about in the world, you may as well get the Retort for potion boosts. We should be level 10 now, and this means we can get access to very important Daedric quests. Finally, at this level, we want to get the ultimate convenience artifact, and that is the skeleton key from Nocturnal. Rock up to her shrine in the Blackwood region, you don't need any special offering, go to Leywyn, specifically Weebum Nar's house, eavesdrop the conversation, then get on out there and retrieve the eye. At the end of the quest, you will be rewarded with the skeleton key. It's just so handy. Now whenever you encounter a lock, just spam auto attempt, level up security for free, and go where you want. The second important quest to do at this point is a Daedric quest for Meridia. Go to her shrine near the settlement of Shardrock, and make sure to bring either mort flesh, ectoplasm, or bone meal, essentially something from an undead creature, a zombie, ghost, or skeleton. You will receive a rather straightforward quest where you are sent to hunt down some necromancers at Howling Cave. It sounds simple, but they can be quite the challenge, and there are lots of creatures in tight quarters with the necromancers throwing out additional summons. Be sure to bring lots of poisons to deal with the necromancers quickly, perhaps even some silence poisons if you happen to have them. Just prepare for what can be a very tough fight. Now, once you've completed that, you will receive a lovely artifact called the Ring of Khajiti. This ring comes with an awesome enchantment. It offers Fortify Speed of +10 and 35% Chameleon. For those new to Oblivion, Chameleon is a bit like active camo from Halo. It makes you transparent. However, how much it does so corresponds to your total percentage, all the way up to 100%, which makes you as invisible as the invisibility spell does. The big difference between Chameleon and invisibility is that invisibility stops working with an attack or activating something. Chameleon is permanently active as long as the effect or spell is active. What this means for us is that we now have a huge boost to our stealth capabilities. It's very handy, but mind you, I like actually seeing my character, so I have this hotkeyed so that I only put it on when I'm actually doing a stealth mission. Also, I may as well just mention it now, but you can go for 100% Chameleon pretty easily with Sigil stones, but personally, I find this kind of kills the fun with basically zero challenge. But I think the Ring of Khajiti alone is enough of a fun boost without killing any and all challenge to stealth. So, in the course of these two quests, I imagine by now that you have at least leveled up once, and it's a cool moment because now we've got our first level 100 attribute, which also means we need to adjust our focus. At level 11, since we no longer need to invest in agility, we will have to take that same investment and put it in strength. Still with willpower as the other major stat, and then the 2 remainder points into speed, bringing our totals to 35 strength, 40 intelligence, 85 willpower, 100 agility, and 90 speed. For levels 12, 13, and 14, I'd highly recommend finishing off willpower with +5 investments each time, as well as putting the other +5s into strength, bringing it to 50 at level 14, and the remainder 2s will have brought speed to 96. The reason for the strength prioritization really comes in around now because A, it contributes to health somewhat, but B, also factors into your encumbrance, meaning we can carry more things with higher strength. The reason we will want to have higher strength is largely because we'll be moving to different light armor, so we won't be able to rely on the remarkably light Shrouded Armor. Also, there is just a lot of convenience found in having more room for loot. Now at level 15, we're in a situation where we have both agility and willpower at 100, with speed only a mere 4 points off of 100 as well. At level 15, I would focus all in on strength and endurance, and we can just put those 2 points into speed until that reaches 100 at level 17. From here on out, I would just continue investing in strength and endurance until they reach level 100 eventually, with extra points just thrown into intelligence. Maybe you want to pick up magic later, and thematically I think it's a better pick than personality for the assassin. At level 17, the latter part of the mid-game, we open ourselves up to a whole host of upgrades. Most notably, another Daedric artifact will be on our radar. This time we will want a bear or wolf pelt, and we will bring it to Hircine's shrine, located between Breville and the Imperial City. A perfect hunting quest for our character. You have to go and kill a unicorn, bring back its horn, and in exchange you will be granted the Saviour's Hide. It's a magical cuirass that suits a Bosmer archer very well, and it offers a simple but very beneficial enchantment of 25% resistance to magic. I love how this looks, and I combine it with some leather braces that I bought from Archer's Paradox in Breville, as well as some mithril greaves and chainmail boots. I think this is a really nice aesthetic and more or less represents the final look, except for some changes to the bottom half. Level 17 also represents an important change for us because now we can go sigil stone hunting. I mentioned in the sorcerer build that sigil stones are leveled, with level 17 giving the transcendent version, which is the most powerful in magnitude. The actual enchantments themselves are randomized, but if you are willing to, you can use a bit of save scumming, loading back to just before you picked it up, and each time it will be different. Up to you if you want to go that route though. Otherwise, you'll just have to close a lot more Oblivion gates, though I will say this build is less enchantment specific overall. Anyways, the enchantments that we are looking for are frost damage, shield, resist magic, and fortify speed. The leather braces are largely an aesthetic choice, and for these I used a sigil stone with resist magic. I named them Grahtwood braces, which have a 20% magic resistance that stacks very nicely on top of the 25% magic resistance of Saviour's Hide, giving us a total of 55% magic resistance, a little more than a Breton starts with. This just helps round out our defenses more. I also used a Transcendent Sigil Stone with the shield effect on a Jade Amulet. This gives 20 points of shield, which boosts our armor significantly. Again, just some really good boosts to help round out our defenses. But as for the others, ideally we would want 2 Fortify Speed Sigil Stones, one for the greaves and one for the boots. But when you do this, it's up to you. We only need 2, but ideally they go on our late game gear, depending on how many Sigil Stones you want to go and get. Right now you're probably rocking the chainmail boots and the mithril greaves for the fit, and soon you'll start finding glass armor, which we would start using instead, the greaves and boots only I mean. We want to keep the rest for the look. I'll talk about the rest when we get to the late game section, but to recap, Saviour's Hide, leather braces with resist magic, Jade Amulet with shield enchantment, Ring of Khajiti, glass greaves and boots with a glass bow is probably how you want to be ending the mid-game stage of your playthrough, that is level 11 through to 20. What I consider the late game is that of the level 20 onward stage. Most builds at this stage are well and truly cooked up. The assassin here will have 100 in willpower, agility and speed with boast strength and endurance in the 70s. Again, we are just continuing to boost strength and endurance for the extra health and encumbrance. The Shivering Isles is a place we will want to go in this late game stage. A new frontier for the assassin, new people and creatures to hunt. A role-playing angle of this character arc can also bring in a tinge of madness. To become obsessed with the hunt to the point of insanity, a crazed predator always looking for new prey. While in the Shivering Isles, we want to look around for pieces of madness ore often found on grummites and deposits found in several caves, and also amber which can be found on gnarls and in amber limbs and stumps in gnarl lairs. Throughout playing the Shivering Isles DLC, you will find these materials and you'll want to save them until level 23, because at level 23 onwards, the Smiths of Bliss and Dementia can craft you armor and weapons made of amber or madness ore respectively. For our character needs specifically, we will only want to get the amber greaves and amber boots, which look really nice with the Saviour's Hide, a similar kind of orange glow to the eyes, plus amber in general very much feels like a Bosmeri theme armor. But for the top, we're going to keep the Saviour's Hide and leather braces just for the aesthetics. Ideally, with the sigil stones we've acquired, we would enchant these boots and greaves with Fortify Speed, naming them Grahtwood Boots and Grahtwood Greaves. We are super speedy now, especially with the high athletics. We will also grab ourselves an amber bow, which with a sigil stone we will enchant this with frost damage, which will do 25 points of damage. We now have an upgraded Frostwyrm essentially. I named mine Cold Harbour's Wind, which is a little nod to the lore regarding the Grahtwood region of Valenwood, which was devastated by Molag Bal at the end of the First Era. Cold Harbour is Bal's realm, hence the name. Now, for all that madness ore and amber left over, and any more you find in the future, you can use these at 1 piece a pop to make amber or madness arrows. Also, if you have any of the matrices that you can find, they can be used to make enchanted versions with damage health effects, which I found is one of the most reliable ways to get a bundle of enchanted arrows. Either enchanted or not, 1 amber or 1 madness ore gets you 25 arrows. Most of this footage here with the poisons applied side are just the simplest damage health poisons that you can make from abundant ingredients like nightshade and peony seeds. This is going to be representative of most of your gameplay experience. However, there are some more complicated poisons to make, but they have incredible effects. I'm going to show you just in this section what a poison of Paralyze, Frost Damage, Damage Health, Damage Magicka, and Silence can do. It's pretty damn insane, but it requires Harada, Spittlestick, Frost Salts or Vampire Dust, and Milk Thistle Seeds. All of the effects are very on theme for our character as well. However, like I said, it's a little more complicated to make and a little less reliable to have just hundreds of them. But in saying that, it is the perfect late game poison to use on those special enemies. The final little piece you can add to your repertoire is the Mundane Ring, which can be found in random loot from level 17 onwards. However, if you are level 22 when you do the Paradise quest as part of the main quest line, you can from the corpse of Raven Cameron retrieve a Mundane Ring. The enchantments are 35% Reflect Spell and 50% resist magic, one of which in combination with our braces and Savior's Hide makes us 105% resistant to magic, meaning we are essentially immune. The 35% reflect spell is also a neat bonus, meaning a third of the time a spell hits us, it will be shot back at the enemy. Now this much magic resistance may be a little overkill for your liking, so here's what you could do. Instead, go back to Breville and buy another pair of leather braces and use a sigil stone with the shield effect on them, which when replacing the old ones will give you a much higher armor rating, but in total you will only be getting 75% resistance to magic, much more reasonable. Arguably that's fair, and to be honest, it's better to bring you up to par on the physical front. By level 26 you will have maxed your strength, willpower, agility, speed, and endurance attributes. By this point I had alchemy, acrobatics, athletics, marksman, and sneak all maxed at 100. We have a speedy, stealthy archer that can unlock any door thanks to the skeleton key, and take on any enemy thanks to her vast repertoire of poisons and enchanted gear. But ladies and gentlemen, that just about covers it. That was the assassin build, a silent killer, an obsessed hunter, a master in the craft of bloodshed. Enjoy. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. It's been so much fun diving into Oblivion Remastered, enjoying all the fantastic changes it has brought to the leveling experience. Subscribe for more Oblivion builds, many more to come. Check out the polls we run on YouTube community posts that I'll be posting after the release of each build. Have a say in what we do. Thanks again. My name is Scott from Fudge Muppet, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.